Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the VeteranCrowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight. Hey everyone, welcome to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. Welcome back for part two of my discussion with Steve Maconi, the CEO of the VMI Alumni Agencies. We had a great discussion with Steve on Tuesday. I hope you got to hear it. And now here's the second half of our discussion with Steve Maconi, CEO of the VMI Alumni Agencies. We're going to get into some of the current events facing VMI and some of his stories and impressions as he's reached his 4-year anniversary as the CEO of the VMI Alumni Agencies in Lexington. Here's Steve. Steve, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about current events now. Shifting gears, for the last 6 months, VMI has been under the microscope. There've been some allegations, at the state level, investigations going on, and it certainly has been a topic of high interest to a lot of folks and concern to the alumni. Let's talk about where we are today. In the last couple of weeks, Cedric Wins, VMI class of 1985, Major General in the Army, distinguished career, has been named as the 15th Superintendent of VMI, and great congratulations to him. He's been a guest on my podcast before. When I spoke with him back in the summer, I don't think he or I had any idea what was going to transpire where we are today. But could you share with us a little bit of an update, from your perspective? What are the things you're hearing, and what do you think's going on?
Sure. I think this name is probably familiar to most who are paying attention. Barnes & Thornburg is the investigative firm that is conducting the audit of VMI. It has been extensive, to say the least. The Institute has handed over more than 50,000 pages of documentation requested by Barnes & Thornburg. All of it done, look, in today's day and age with the concerns for privacy issues, FERPA, all of those kinds of considerations. There have been individual interviews with cadets. There have been interviews with alumni. There have been interviews with faculty and staff. Barnes & Thornburg is now on post doing some focus group discussions. There was a survey that went to a significant number of alumni who participated. And meanwhile, Bob, arguably independent of all of that, General Wins is an incredibly thoughtful man, and there's a lot of things that he is rolling up his sleeves and digging into just because he's this new superintendent and wants to understand the landscape. So the investigation will run its course, and Barnes & Thornburg are going to do an in-depth review, and they're looking at a lot of different aspects of the VMI experience. Meanwhile, General Wins and the whole staff, quite frankly, have done a wonderful job of sort of isolating the cadets from as much of this, call it background noise, not in a disrespectful way, but trying to keep all of that out of the minds of the cadets and just let them get the quality education that is a VMI education, and as much as possible experience a normal second semester leading up to commissioning and graduation in less than a month. We don't anticipate anything else from Barnes & Thornburg of a written nature until the final report comes out, arguably in early June. And we can all speculate on how that might read. The report will be issued by Barnes and Thornburg. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to provide a thoughtful rebuttal, and then it'll be up to Chev, the BOV, so sort of understand how to respond to the observations and recommendations of Barnes and Thornburg. So we've got a ways to go before we see the final report. Meanwhile, General Wins continues to roll up his sleeves and dig into today's VMI and really understand it well and chart a real thoughtful path for the future.
Steve, you didn't go to VMI, but you've come to appreciate probably, one of the bedrock issues at VMI is the honor system. And, there's been over the years modifications to the approach of how honor is administered, but there's never been much wavering in the in the principle itself. Anything to discuss on that? I mean, alumni, there are some changes. The one change being that the name of a cadet who's drummed out is no longer shared. And I think that's kind of a privacy issue, really. It was a reaction to existing law, not necessarily to this investigation. But any feedback on that you might want to share?
No, other than, General Wins has been, I think, crystal clear that the code itself is one of VMI's immutables. The code itself is not changing. General Wins is firmly committed to the single sanction. And he repeatedly has suggested that any kind of sliding scale of honor would be problematic for him, and not something that he's interested in for VMI. So he's firmly committed to the code and a single sanction honor system. Bob, arguably, regardless of what was going on in the news or investigations, the honor system at VMI is certainly one of the most important attributes about the VMI experience. And so General Wins is digging into it from start to finish. The honor court, the vote, the composition of the court, simply the entire process, just for his peace of mind to understand that all of it makes sense today. And that's just due diligence. But the foundational elements of the honor system here, the code itself and the single sanction, General Wins is firmly committed to those two things.
In light of recent events, Steve, I think the academies have been, dealing with some challenging honor situations and heard that maybe they're reviewing going back to a single sanction type of strategy. I'm wondering when they're going to roll into Lexington and want to know the lessons that we've learned over the last century, with regards to this. You think that's a possibility?
Well, look, I think a lot of people have seen the news about the issue that's going on at West Point, and they put a policy in place. I think it was back in 2015 that created the opportunity for some leniency in how their honor code was adjudicated, and I think their recent experiences are simply suggesting they're going to reconsider all of that. General Wins and some of our most eloquent alumni, like General John Jumper, have simply suggested that whether it's in the boardroom or in an airplane or in a classroom, that sliding scales of honor, honor relativism, it doesn't work. And John Jumper has been very eloquent at suggesting that it's a life lesson that is best learned here at the Virginia Military Institute rather than out in society. So
Mhm.
I think institutionally we're as committed to that concept as you can be, and um, I don't see a change in that at all, Bob.
The Board of Visitors has been hard at work underneath a little bit of a microscope themselves. What's on their plate at the moment? There's some new committees, and they've been working extremely hard in response to all of this.
And I've gotten to know the members of the Board of Visitors quite well, and watching them function in both committee work and as a board as a whole, um, they're as committed and passionate about VMI um, as any alumnus we have out there, and it's a little troubling to read emails that suggest they're cowards or that kind of thing. Bob, I can tell you nothing's further from the truth. They're fighting to preserve those things that are fundamental to VMI as passionately as you or uh, our alumni, all of our alumni would want the board to fight. There is one committee headed by Richard Hines that is looking at commemorations and memorials, and well informed by an assessment by Keith Gibson about all of the iconography on posts that has some connection to that short period of time in VMI's history, the
Mhm.
period of the Confederacy, and simply assessing the relevance of those monuments and iconography to VMI today. There's a diversity, equity, and inclusion subcommittee that's doing some real important work on a range of subjects, from the hiring of a chief diversity officer to um, dashboards and greater visibility into the composition of the staff, the composition of the demographics of the staff and the faculty in a way that there's a sensitivity to the demographics of that constituency, and a spirit of demographics that reflect the core of cadets in Virginia more closely, if you will.
And now a word about a Veteran Crowd Spotlight sponsor. Matbach develops lighter, faster warriors using their innovative designs and patented ghost material. After multiple deployments to austere locations while serving as Navy SEAL officers, Zach and Sean, the founders, have developed over 125 unique products for the military, law enforcement, and first responders. Lastly, they have created an entire Da Vinci line of shirts, cups, and bottles, which if you use the code VeteranCrowd, you can enjoy 10% off. That's matbach.com. Use code VeteranCrowd for 10% off anything on their site. Now back to your host, Bob Loudon.
I know that General Wins is kind of getting his feet under him. He has been at VMI now for a number of months as the interim. Uh, what do you think is going to be? What do you think his imprint has been on VMI in the first 6 months that he's been around?
I think he's had, first of all, it goes without saying that, and we should all pause for a moment to recognize and thank General P for his extraordinary
There were big
service
shoes to fill.
to VMI, to this country, to our nation, and we should all be grateful and thankful for General P's service. I think
He was
General,
transformative. I mean, he really brought VMI a long way in his tenure. There's no
oh,
question. No question.
I was fortunate to see sort of the last 3.5 years of his tenure, so I don't appreciate where VMI was when he got here, but I can certainly appreciate where VMI today is, largely thanks to his extraordinary leadership. I think General Wins has established a wonderful rapport with the Corps. He has made it very clear he has very high expectations of the Corps. They should have high expectations of the faculty and staff, and he has very high expectations of them. And it seems to me, as an observer, the Corps' response to his leadership has been terrific. He's had a pretty open dialogue with faculty. He is not averse to change, and he has been clear in saying, if we have some blind spots, whether it's a result of the Barnes and Thornburg investigation or his own thoughtful analysis, we will try to identify those blind spots and then do the right thing for VMI and the Corps cadets. And I think he's the right guy at the right time. I also think his personal experience as a cadet athlete and all that that we associate with being a cadet athlete, and time management, integration with the rest of the Corps. I think General Wins is a terrific guy to understand those dynamics and address them in a way that the Corps and VMI simply move positively going forward. So we're all excited to have him here.
It's been very complicated with the COVID environment. As we're coming out of COVID, what's the Alumni Association got on the docket here as we go forward?
We have a really busy fall. You know, one of the adverse impacts of all of this has been there's something magical that happens, Bob. I'm preaching to the choir when classes come back for reunions. Not only philanthropically with an outpouring of financial support, but the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the magic that happens when classes come back together. We haven't done that in over a year. We should have had
no
9
tailgate
classes.
parties, all of that.
We should have had 9 classes on post this month, and I shudder to think the number of classes that we're going to have come back in a wonderful way, but really a challenging way for the agencies in the fall and the spring, more than double the number that
you're going to play catch up
have in a reunion cycle, but we want all those classes to have the opportunity to come back and celebrate as brother rats. So we're excited about the fall. We're excited about getting back to a more normal profile and having alumni back on post that allows them to re-engage with the Institute in a more personal way than we've been able to do for the last 14 months now.
All right, last question.
Yes, sir.
Steve, how has VMI changed Steve Maconi?
Oh, that's a good question. I probably have some more gray hair than when I got here.
None of us were expecting the travails and the challenges, right? But you were up for them.
I think it's true about this school. I think it's true about this community. This school and this community are made up of extraordinary people with an incredible commitment to this institution. And Bob, as a community, the Lexington community, wonderful compassion for each other. This is an amazing place to work and a remarkable community to live in. And, you know, you've heard the slogan, it's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. In a sense, Lexington is almost the opposite of that. You come here and it's a small town and whatever you need, you better be able to get it at Walmart, because, I mean, that's what we got. And you got a Lowe's next to it. And gosh, this is a tiny place, and there aren't a heck of a lot of restaurants. And my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to like it here. I got to tell you, it's an amazing community to live in. You know, the privilege to have worked for General P, to work with guys like Jamie Inman, Dallas Clark, Dave Dials, Jeff Bubar, Dave Gray. I mean, Gary Bissell, the folks on this post that we get to interact with on a daily basis, not to mention the cadets themselves. You know, it's interesting. I spent 19 years at the Naval Academy, and my wife's very first event on post was a dinner with the Cadet Investment Group. Those are mostly economics and business majors. The alumni agencies actually give them $300,000 a year in real money. Mm-hmm. They go invest it. And then at the end of the year, we have a nice banquet, and hopefully they tell us how much money they've raised. An incredible real world experience for those cadets. But we sat at a dinner, and the dinner ended in Moody Hall, and we walked the 30 yards back to where my truck was parked behind Nykirk, and my wife just looked at me and said, remember, 19 years at the Naval Academy, and she said, those are the nicest, most polite young men I think I've ever met in my life. And that's 19 years at the Naval Academy. My nephew's a Naval Academy graduate. We've sponsored a whole bunch of midshipmen in our time at the Naval Academy, yet the demeanor of the cadets really struck her in a really personal way. And
that's fantastic.
It was true in your day, Bob, and it remains true today.
I am convinced that VMI is the best college buy in America. I'm obviously biased, but I bought it twice. Right. You know, sent two sons there, and as a parent, you know, as much as they griped and moaned and groused about their cadetships, I think they are grown to appreciate everything that they got in Lexington. Steve Maconi, we've run way over time. This is going to be 2 episodes.
No, it's quite all right.
The spotlight. You're stepping in twice. Thank you so much for sharing this time. You need to send a message over to General Wins and say Bob needs you back on his podcast. So you know, let's get Lori to set that up for me. But anyway, thanks so much to you. Good luck to the cadets tomorrow. I am having some friends over for a watch party. We're going to have a big time. I know you're probably you're going to be in.
Absolutely. We got our rain gear, and rain or shine, we will be there. The forecast doesn't look the best, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Hopefully the sun's going to be shining on VMI tomorrow. All right.
We're excited. And the kids are
very excited.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Hey, you've been listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. We bring veterans who are making a real difference in our community into your homes in our podcast every week. Thanks again to Steve Maconi. I'm going to throw out a Bravo Zulu to you, and that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by VeteranCrowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.